Hello there, Outliers. Niiamah Ashong here, and thank you so very much for letting us be a part of your journey. Woo, we have ourselves a incredible conversation coming up here. We're spending time with none other than Rowena Hicks, who is an incredible outlier who does not like mess around and keeps finding ways to both elevate herself and the people that she works with. Rowena, thank you so much for being you, for being here, and for agreeing to come and play. I appreciate you.
Well, thanks for having me. It's exciting.
Yeah, I'm excited. And one of the things you should know here is I ask everyone when we come in, don't get tripped up on the language, but I would love for outliers to get to know you. Would you mind sharing more about you and the game you're playing right now?
Sure. I was in education for over 30 years and I burnt out as a leader in a job that I was absolutely passionate about. I was giving it 70 to 80 hours a week and I just made a difference. I knew I did. I was making a huge impact, but I forgot to look after myself. So I got really, really poorly. So I had to stop work and I was so angry because I loved what I did. And so I decided to write a book to help other school staff to do life differently, I guess, with really simple changes in life. Because as I researched how I could heal, I researched what I had got wrong, I discovered all these amazing nuggets of things that we can do differently. And since then, I've written another book and I have a course and I coach and I work with schools. And I guess what I'm doing is sewing back into a system, not only for people in education, actually, but others to look at ways of perhaps seeing life from a different perspective. That's what I do.
Oof, okay. We're gonna play here. There's something in what you said here that really caught me. You said, I forgot to take care of myself. I forgot to look after myself there. Can you mind like there's something in that. The word forgot really gets me there, right? Share a bit here because you've written about it. You're still steeped in supporting people with this here. I think there's something here from like that I'm trying to capture for any outlier right now who like might just need that remembrance. Tell us about like either how you remembered or like what you would have like noted if you were like if you were in like the awareness of it as it was going.
Yeah, great question. So we go through life so fast, don't we? We don't tend to stop to think, am I doing this in a sensible way, in a healthy way? Is my life perhaps not necessarily balanced, because what does balance even look like? But more, is it serving me? Is it aligned with my values? Am I living what matters to me? So if you looked at your to-do list, where are you on that? Do you even come in the top 10 things? Do your children, does your family, does your health? So it's really, for me, it was doing so many hours, being first into school and one of the last to leave. And I almost saw that as a badge of honor. It meant that I was doing the best job and perhaps I was the most important, or maybe not the most important, but it was because I was really doing something great that I needed to be in there first. But actually, what's that about? Because I could have had an extra hour's sleep. I could have been there for my children occasionally when they got home from school, things like that. And I guess what I'm saying to people is we need to pause life sometimes and say, if you look at your life right now, are you proud of the choices that you're making, the priorities that you're putting into your life? Are you looking at whether maybe if you went to the gym once a week instead of doing that late night piece of work, maybe tomorrow you would work more productively. Maybe you'd be a nicer team member. There's lots of different choices that we have all the time. And where are we coming in the choices that we make? And the things that are important to us, where do they come?
Okay, bro. You mind if we play a little bit with this here? Because
Mm,
this is there's some things you're saying that were really fascinating to me. And one of the places that I love to anchor our conversation is no matter where we go. It's like you said here, something along the lines of like it felt like I was really doing something great, you know. And I think that level of greatness, like, it's something we should keep in this conversation. Because to me, like, the question that comes in is like, okay, if this is what you've known, and you being the royal you, right? If this is what any outlier out there listening has known of like as their path of achieving greatness, right? We talk about outliers here have created a path that only they themselves have walked, right?
Mm.
Um, I've known a number of people who've had gone through burnout, right? And it's like when that path no longer is available, like of like I will just wake up earlier, stay later, give more than everyone else, and so on and so forth. Like how have you like reconciled or how have you gone out and found new pathways to greatness? Because that's the reason wasn't because I loved like I wanted to do this here. It's like 'cause I'm trying to do something great and this is what I believe it requires. So can we talk about like how you
Mm.
continue to go down the path of greatness when the thing that you felt was making you great was is no longer an option?
So I would have to say to you, what is greatness and what is great? What are we doing that is good or great? What does that even mean? Because actually, I always wanted to be a school leader. I wanted to have greater impact. I wanted to be able to do more, help more. And on one level, yes, I was. But actually, I if I stopped to realize what I was doing, perhaps in the last couple of years of my work as a very senior leader in a school, was I being the best version of me that I could be to be the best for everybody else? Because if I can take a step back here, I would say that I wasn't valuing myself. I didn't see my value apart from the impact I made. So my job became my identity to such a deep point. People around me were going, "Wow, Ro, you're making great strides with your career, and it sounds like your title in your job is really important, and you're making a good amount of money, and what the world says is success." But actually, what I really believe is success is impacting those that around me who I care about. Yes, of course, in my role, I want to make a difference. But if I don't step back and think to be able to serve my community, my family, even me, I need to start looking after myself first. And from that point on, then I am going to be able to do more in the world. I'm going to be able to change more lives. But I have to pause, step back, and think, right, me first. And that's not selfish, it's self awareness. It's not introspection. It's actually starting to take on some skills, some mindsets, some habits that make you into the best version of yourself, who you're truly called to be.
I appreciate this. Yeah, I appreciate this in the meaningful way. I think there's something that feels really present for me, which is like the element of success, but like that's a very broad term that thing success. And one thing I think I heard from you is that your definition of success evolved. Like you've taken some time to look at it from a different place, and with that redefined with that evolved definition of success, you had more pathways available to do it, including like it's like if I'm like being but I kind of hear it's like if I'm showing up as a leader that can show up for the people that I lead on a regular basis, that is success. It's not just me creating or like kind of pulling forward a result to completion. Am I getting that? Am I getting part of that right?
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely about the people, isn't it? Yes, of course, having good results is fantastic, but ultimately it's about the people who you're leading
Mm.
and you're caring for.
So, Allies, I'm going to invite you right now to spend some time right now, and I love this because we get to do this every once in a while here. Take some time right now and see how are you currently defining success? And for what you really want out there, like what definition might actually support you way more fully than what you're doing right now or what you've been doing right now. Right. Ro, for anyone that is listening, I hope you don't mind if I call you Ro every once in a while. Are you good with that? Okay. All right, just it's natural for me now. So like, but for anyone that's listening to this, um, who's actually hearing this and saying like, okay, like I do want to take some time to look at like how I define success. Because I the reason I'm keeping this in the frame is I'm like my outliers they go for big things. It's part of what makes them an outlier. So I'm like it's not we're not shrinking, the goal, but we are modifying it toward what really matters or to you at this time. So what would you say to any outlier that's listening to this that's like I hear you, and I'm like, I think I do need to shift how I'm actually aiming for things.
Hmm. Isn't it fascinating? You see, when you say that to me, I think, well, on one level, success for me is to be able to share my heart with more people, which means I tell people that they have value. And actually, if they don't start taking note of that, they're going to do what I did. They're going to burn out. And so many, I mean, the statistics are awful. When I wrote my first book, and it was for educators primarily, I had doctors and business people and social workers all coming to me and saying, Ro, can you write a book like this for us? Because burnout is everywhere, because we're looking at success from a wrong perspective. You see, I would say to you, to anyone listening, you can be the best version of yourself if you are doing what you are called to do. You can't do anything you want because none of us can do anything, can we? But actually, you have intrinsically within you strengths and skills and passions. And if you go with that and believe in yourself and also take on I mean, I guess I come back to self awareness because it's such a key, but also take on I suppose, that place of rest where you reflect and work out what is it that you value, what are you going to pursue that really aligns with your values and your strengths, your really valued strengths, your core competencies, if you like. And then as you go into that, then you have much greater chance of accelerating, of flying, because you're going to be in the place where you feel comfortable. Because if people are pushing you to do something else, and the world will say, oh, we want you to do this more, or oh, could you just do this? Well, if you're a people pleaser like me, it's really difficult to say no. But at the end of the day, if you take that pause and that reflective time and say, does that align with me and what matters to me, my values, then you're going to see a different level of success. And I would say for me now, success isn't wealth, it's not a title, it's not being big on LinkedIn or anything like that. It has a very different look. So success for me is twofold probably. I'm slightly thinking off the hoof here on the hoof here, but I would say it's daily impacting people with whatever I do. So somebody, their thinking is changed, their sense of their value is changed, that they don't need to do life in the same way. But success also for me is creating something that is going to build some sort of um, process whereby I can impact a greater number of people as well. Because I want more. I want, because of where I've been with my my drivenness and my passion and my that then led to burnout. Because of that, I want to actually, what does Simon Sinek, he says he calls it, he wants to challenge the status quo. I don't want this to be okay anymore. I want this to stop. This assumption that burnout is almost a badge of honor, working crazy long hours. It's just not okay because it's not healthy. But it's not just about the long hours, it's about productivity and all the other side of things that we need to learn skills for. But I want bigger impact. Yeah.
I really appreciate you. I really, really appreciate you because um part of what I get about you is that like you're still going. You're very tenacious, you're still growing, you're still going for things, but now you're doing it with you in mind. as well. You
Mm.
know, and I think part of why I was having the conversation, I was using words like greatness and success and all that stuff there, and like even when you said like I want more, I'm like yes, you know, um, and I think the thing about it is that like I've had other conversations about burnout, and it tends like or like what happens afterwards, and it tends to it almost feels like the conversation becomes like now you have to get out of the game, you know, like you got burned out. Now it's not. Now you have to like get move yourself out of the game. What you were going for before isn't the way to go do it, or isn't there you know, it's not to say like it may not it could come back. So then like I feel like people like this there's a part that like feels like it slightly ushers you out of the game. And what I feel from you, Ro, is like you're like, no, you can stay in the game, but and I like you said this, and I feel like I need to censor this here because I censored something else first. What I felt like what I feel like I'm hearing underneath everything you're saying is that like if you are not valuing yourself, like regardless of how it turns out, whether it's the hours or whatever, like you're gonna end up in a place where you're putting out far more than what you're receiving because you're not knowing your own worth, you're not knowing your own value, and you're allowing yourself to compromise on things that really shouldn't be. Let me check in there because I feel like underneath all this, like that's what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah, I am. I would add to that that if you're not valuing yourself, and that's a really huge topic in itself, right? But if you don't really understand your intrinsic value just because you are you, doesn't matter what you do, what you say, what you look like, nothing like that. Just because you are you, created as you have value. If you don't understand that, you're not able in a really healthy way to value those around you either. So you're not looking after yourself, but also you think you're serving those around you, but you're not doing it in a healthy way or not as well as you could if you'd done the work on yourself first.
And see you going there, but I love that. I love that because it's a wonderful confrontation, you know. It's beautiful. And at the same time, I think like I think what I'm hearing is like I hear it through like my lens right now. Right now I'm like in like let's go kind of mode. I'm like I've been on the sidelines or kind of like treading water and I'm like, oh, the marathon's now, like we can go swimming, you know, or whatever it is, the triathlon. Um and if I'm like what I'm getting from you is like I'm a recovered people pleaser. I talked to someone the other day. He said he's a recovered people pleaser. I was like, you can end this, you know? So
That's
that's what
really
they're,
good.
yeah. I'm like, oh, yeah. I've been keeping myself in the same cycle. I think it's time to go somewhere new. But what felt really confronting about it for me, and I love hearing things sometimes in confrontation, but it's you're like, hey, look, I get it. You really want to help people. Like, and if you really want to help people, if you're really going to be a people pleaser, people please better. And the way to do that is to take care of yourself, you know, to
Mhm.
value yourself. Because when you value yourself, then your ability to assess value starts to increase. And then you start to understand, like, wait a minute, you're invaluable. You know, then you have no yeah, you're invaluable. Like that's one of the biggest things that changed the game for me, bro, was like when I read the book, it was The Go Giver was the first book that helped me see this year. But it was like something along the lines of like we as humans, like our existence on this planet, like it's priceless. Like you couldn't pay for it. You know, someone said to me once, he said, you are once in an eternity existence, you know? So like if something's that rare, like what would the worth be? And I found like this tended to come up in the conversations around like how much can I charge for my business? I haven't done this before. Who am I to do this? Am I worth it? So on and so forth. I'm like, your value is completely irrelevant to this year because it is priceless. Like they couldn't afford you if they tried. If they got all the riches in the world, they couldn't afford you. And I feel like you're like you take a stand on being on like knowing that like you really are invaluable. So make sure that you don't mess that up. Treat it as
Mm.
such. It's a rare, rare commodity. It's a rare, rare treasure. I don't know. Like I might be putting words in your mouth, but there's something beautiful in what you're saying that I think is I don't want to let go of it just yet.
Yeah, I mean, I would absolutely agree with that. I mean, as a Christian, I believe that we all have value intrinsically because God has created us how we are. But also, I would want to say to anyone listening that if you are going to start to work on your value and your self-worth and really looking at that, it's hard work. And be prepared for some pushback. Even when I burnt out, and it was the doctor who actually eventually said to me, Rowena, if you don't stop doing this, you could die. Because I mean, the symptoms were getting so severe, but I didn't want to let people down. It was just so ingrained in me what I was doing. But then when I did stop work, people, they didn't use the word failure, but they almost, yeah, they basically told me I was a failure because I didn't have a lovely, job description and a lovely income and all of that anymore. So it was as if then my value went straight down. But where is your value? Where are you holding your value? So when I started doing the self work, if you like, and for example, I put a boundary in with some close people to me one time, and I'd practiced it and I'd got it right. And this was a really big deal for me putting in a boundary to say, actually, I can't do that at the moment. Well, three people blocked me who are really close to me. They blocked me. They did not want to communicate with me anymore. And that's because I'd been such well, I suppose, a doormat my whole life that I'd always done what everyone else wanted because it made me feel useful. It made me feel needed. And I thought that's where I got my value from. So when I had that awful response from people, it was quite devastating. But I had to decide, how am I going to respond to that? Actually, I'm going to say, no, I stood up to that. This is the new me post burnout, and I'm going to be stronger. So even a perceived failure, and perhaps you have rejection after it, things like that, it can make you stronger. So I'm not going to let anyone stop me. I'm not going to say, okay, so I've burnt out, so I can't teach anymore. I can't lead in a school. I can have impact in a different way and I can have greater impact because we use our challenges and our disasters and our crashes, don't we? We learn from it because we're all growing.
Oh, wow. Well, so a couple of things hit me when you were saying this, and like what I don't know the people that are involved, so I'm not trying to project there, but like there was something in there around like that element of if I show up differently than what people have known me to be, like I might lose them. And you actually went through the fire of having to like put up the boundaries, and actually lost three people in your life. They decided to block you from that. And what was going through my mind when you said that was, okay, wow. First, I'm just like, I'm glad you've been freed of whatever it is, because what like there was a like whatever they were doing was working. It was getting you to you were getting you were given what they wanted to get from you. And the moment, and what it sounds like here, without knowing all the details, the moment that like you were no longer going to give that to them, like it felt rather transactional as a way, like here, where it's just like, oh, okay, well then I'm out. And it made me think about the book. You got me thinking about books here, Rowena. Before we leave, we got to make sure we let Outliers know your two books so that they can go get it, right? Outliers is going to be your Audible is going to be filled, you know. Um, but it got me thinking about give and take, and I bring it up every once in a while on by Adam Grant. I bring it up every once in a while on this podcast because I hang out with givers, you know. And what it felt like to me is that like when you described that, it felt like, oh, you were a giver, and then you moved into a place where you put up your own boundaries and said, hey, like this is how I'm going to be. And then they showed up as a taker and they said, oh, I just want to take. And you're like, well, this is what my boundary is. And they're like, well, if you're not going to give to me anymore, I'm out. And so that's why like a large part of me celebrates that. Like I don't hear that as a like I'm just like, oh, I'm so glad they revealed themselves to you and like extricated themselves from your life, because like if there's anything other than celebration, then I don't know what is. So what do you make of it? Like, I'm not trying to speak ill of anyone that I don't know or anything like that, but just like in hearing, I'm like, it sounds like she was given, and then they realized they couldn't take anymore, and they went in on it. What are your thoughts or your feelings on this? If you don't want to talk about it at all, like, don't feel like you need to comment on it.
No, it's okay. I mean, it hurts, doesn't it? Because it's sort of rejection and all of that. But actually, we have a choice how we respond. Um, and it's another level of self-awareness. Am I going to say, why did they not love me? Why don't they want me in their life anymore? And why won't they accept me and me? Or am I going to say, what am I learning from this? You know, it's that why, what question, isn't it? What am I going to take away from this? And what serves me? What aligns with what is important to me? And actually, as a stronger, better person who's making better choices and more informed choices, I can say what works for me is no longer what works for them. And so the new
Mm.
Rowena, um, or the learning to be new Rowena, I should say, because this is probably 2 years in the past since I burnt out. And I still have to have a paper diary because when I go out, people will say, "Oh, Ro, can you just do this for me?" Or we want you to. And I automatically still say, "Oh, yeah, of course I'll do it." But because my diary's sitting on my desk at home, I have to say, "Oh, I'll let you know when I get home." And by the time I've got home, my mind has filtered through. Does it align with what is important with me right now for my priorities? Because I have a business that's starting up and I am really busy. And, I know my priorities, which is my children and my dad. So I have to think, does it align with that and my business? And if not, it doesn't fit. So they get a no. So there's little things that we put in to help us to manage when we are recovering people pleasers or new boundary setters, things like that.
Even as you say it though, I could see that going afterwards, like 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 being a recovered people pleaser and still saying, and part of it is like my paper diary, I would love to help. And I have to make sure that we will confirm once I get there. I make no decisions
Mhm,
now because I don't have my diary on me. I keep
mhm,
that where it is. I think that I like hearing some of the tools of like how you do it because what I get is at your core you still love to help, that's something that still motivates you, and you're not losing that. You've just found different ways to bring that out in the world that in a sustainable manner. Uh, you talked earlier about this. You're talking to your doctor. Your doctor's like, hey. You these symptoms, like they keep getting worse and they're getting quite you said at the time the symptoms were so severe, right? And when you said that, I was like, oh, as much as we're talking about like burnout and then like valuing yourself and all that, it's like there's stuff that like they're warning signals. There's lead indicators along the way. For any outlier right now, that might be maybe where you were, right? And I think this is tricky. This is hard because it's I've talked to people who like it's a pretty consistent thing. They're like, it's not that I didn't know I was like running myself ragged to an extent. It wasn't like there weren't symptoms there. It's just I chose not to heed them. Can you speak a little bit to that? Because I think it also still ties back to like the self-worth part and self-value part. Do you mind speaking to that here? Oh,
I guess I would say that I was doing life so fast that I would have long days at school. I remember one day when my youngest said to me, well, it was after every evening we'd watch a tiny bit of TV before they went to sleep. And one day my laptop broke and they said, "Finally, Mum, you're giving me some quality time." And what I hadn't realized is that I was just doing my work emails while we watched TV, but I wasn't ever stopping. I wasn't switching my brain off ever. So when I went to sleep, I dreamed work. I was thinking about how I was going to manage the next day. And slowly I can see now with retrospect the symptoms of numbness coming into particularly my hands and my arms. I remember one day when I lost vision in one eye for a few hours, and that was really scary. And of course, the doctors can't find what's wrong. And then another day, I woke up on a Sunday and I went downstairs and started having what I thought was a heart attack. And of course, the ambulance came round straight away, got me to hospital, discovered it wasn't a heart attack. They didn't tell me what it was, but after a few hours, it got better. And so I was sent home and told to take 2 weeks off. The problem was, I took the 2 weeks off feeling very unwell, but then I went straight back into work and nothing changed. No one said to me, look at your habits, look at the way you're throwing yourself into work. When I was driving, excuse me, I was driving everywhere. I mean, I'm quite a legally abiding person, but I was driving as fast as I could everywhere because I was always late. Nothing ever was well paced. Everything that mattered was always squeezed really tight. And then, of course, the heart attack symptoms started coming back. And then one day I lost use of my whole body, actually. I remember lying on the sofa thinking, I can't move my limbs. And it was just really frightening. And actually, as time went on, I remember one stupid day where the doctor was trying to get hold of me because he had some test results that weren't very good that had come back, blood pressure all over the place and stuff, obvious stuff, I guess. But I was so busy in school, he couldn't get hold of me on the phone because I was never available to take a call from the doctor. Now, that's got to say something is out of kilter somehow that I couldn't even take 10 minutes to speak to a doctor about what mattered. So I suppose my whole life was rushing, but nobody at the time ever said to me what I say to people now, which is look at your habits and look at your mindset. We have somewhere between 12,000 and 60,000 thoughts a day. And of those, 80% are negative. Now, the majority of those negative thoughts, are the same as yesterday. So if we don't start doing some work to change our thought life, which is, I'm so busy, I can't stop for a meal. I can't possibly go to the gym today because if I do, then I won't get that piece of writing done. My children may have to squeeze into my life, all that sort of thing. If we don't stop to consider that, and I would recommend to everyone that they journal because that's what has transformed my thinking, nothing's going to change. We need to be stopping ourselves and taking some really quite tricky action. It's not anything difficult to do. We've just got to rewire those neurons.
A couple of things, right? Like, firstly, thank you, right? Thank you for being open and honest and transparent around like your actual experience. And I say thank you because I know it serves. I know it serves where because even as you were talking, I was like, oh, like you have me thinking back about things. I'm like, was that an innocuous thing? Was that just getting older? Easy oh, is it just like, oh, the kids got me keep like they got me up, so I'm not sleeping as much. That's it. And I think it really does serve to be able to make this real, where we talk about burnout, but it's like, what does it actually look like? What does it actually feel like? What does it actually look like? Like how does it actually transpire? And the way it goes for you might be different from anyone else, but like outliers. I guess that's my invitation right now is just to take like a quick sense, take a quick scan, go back over the last 6 months and be like, was there anything funky going on? Anything that just like you just kind of like swept over and just let it go by. Like you're like, 'cause I can imagine so many people like I'm in control. Like I got it. Like I would know, or like I don't have time to have that, Like so I just want to make sure that like I think in my heart right now is really with any outlier out there that's like careening toward this that hasn't really like that may not recognize where the leading the indicators are. Like they're like, I'm gonna listen to this and be able to go on, like slow down. We're talking to you, we're talking to you right now. Like slow down and like check in, give Ro a call, whatever, like go read her books, like take some time, like we are talking to you, all right? And on the other side of it too, like for those of us that have gone through it, and we're asking ourselves, we're recreating our lives with the boundaries we want in place, with the new definitions of success, with the ways of valuing ourselves here, right? One, if you're looking for support on it here, bro, are you open to Outliers reaching out to you about this? Like if anyone's like, hey, look, I get it. I don't know if I want to do this on my own. I probably could do that, but I would just be more me leaning into the burnout as opposed to like allowing myself to get help. Are you open to them like reaching out to you around this?
Yeah, absolutely. Always, always. We
Yeah.
need to stick together and help each other, don't we?
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
What would be the best way for them to do that? What's the best way for them to go deeper down the journey?
Well, they can go onto my website, rowenahicks.com, or they can email me, rowenahphicks@gmail.com. Yeah.
Okay. All right,
Find me on
cool.
LinkedIn. I'm everywhere.
Okay. All right, cool. So yeah, Outliers is like if this is feeling real for you, like don't hold back. Just reach out. Like, and don't worry. I guess that Rowena set up her boundaries. So like you'll get through when it's time. I really appreciate this conversation. There's a few more places I wouldn't like kind of open up the conversation into, but I think we honor this by allowing ourselves to close this conversation with space, and what I'll say is that I've really valued this conversation overall. The way that I like to close out the conversations to give us a chance to share some of our insights that we've gotten from it. I- so this is not for Outliers anymore. Like this is for us. It's still gonna be recorded and shared with Outliers, but like we don't need to tell them anything here. I call it like, yeah, actually, yeah, I'll do this. I'll have us wrap it up this way. Or if there's anything you want to share with an outlier right now that's listening to this that you would love for them to know or hear or to really just like receive, right? This would be an outsight. This is something coming from you to them. What might that outsight be?
I would say to anyone listening to this that today I hope you understand that you have value just by being you. You don't need to prove anything to the world because you have value and worth just because you are you and what's in your heart and who you are at your core, what really matters to you. That is who you are and that is your value. And I hope you've heard that today.
Thank you. And outliers, my ask here is an important one. Um, my ask is that you take this episode and you share it with someone, one person in your life that you think would really benefit from it. Someone who like might be going through what we've been talking about, either on the road to, during, after, so on and so forth. But like, if there's something in this conversation that made you think of someone, please send this episode to them and let them know. It's like, hey, I was listening to this episode and it made me think about you. And I would love to get your thoughts. Open up the conversation with that person in particular. And of course, if we want to go ahead and share it out with your world more broadly on your socials and such. But there's something that signs up for me, when I make this kind of an invitation. It's like this is if this conversation goes one person at a time to the exact right person that needs to hear it, like even 30 years down the line, we're still going to get messages about the impact of this conversation because it will continue to reach the right person as opposed to just being like a splash in the pan with just like, here goes social media this one day, I just hit my elbow on the table. So if you heard that. All right. So we're gonna wrap here. We have ways to reach out to you as it is. Putting outliers to the side right now. Well, for you, like, what's an insight that you are leaving this conversation with, and which ways have you transformed, or what are you taking away from here? And if nothing's showing up for you from an insight perspective, you can just say that too. That's okay.
I think I've been reminded today of having been so broken and so full of shame at my burnout and my perceived failure. But actually, I have come such a long way and I am stronger and I am a better person. I am more me now. And that has really been sort of shouting at me through this session. So thank you. It's been lovely. I hope
Well,
that gives hope to somebody else.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I appreciate you. Thank you for being open, honest, transparent. Thank you for finding ways to play the game that aligns with you, and for doing the work to make sure that you see your value and help us be able to see our own value as a result of it. It's nothing short of smallness. Thank you so very much. All right.
Thank
Be
you.
well. And Outliers, until next time we talk, be you on purpose. Journey on.